Warning: the Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of borders, language, culture. And here he is, winner of the National Radio Hall of Fame Award, Michael Savage.
It's the Savage Nation. Lou Pate filling in for Dr. Savage. He will be back tomorrow. In the meantime, pick up a copy of the New York Times bestseller, Trump's War, His Battle for America. More important now than ever. It's like reading the events of our times in real time. And if you think I'm kidding you on that, think about what happened in Charlottesville. Think about the left-wing violence this weekend in Berkeley. Think about the Antifa and all that they symbolize and how the left is not condemning their actions. Right there in Chapter 10, Trump's War for the First Amendment. I'm telling you, it's as if this book keeps revising itself right in front of me. There's a reason why it debuted number 1 on the New York Times bestseller list. Well, thank you for joining me. Thanks for spending time here at the cornerstone of the Trump presidency, the Savage Nation. We have a lot going on for you. America comes together. The real America, not the America that's portrayed in the mainstream media, not the America that the Antifa wants. The real America is coming together in Houston, which is still under a deluge of rain. Tropical Storm Harvey dumping what was the estimate, 50 trillion gallons of rain or 50 inches of rain, all these different numbers coming. Houston is underwater. Small towns in its wake are underwater. The rain is still coming down. The worst is not over. And Americans are showing what they do. Americans are coming together, okay? Not the America that the media wants you to see. We're going to be talking about this. We're going to talk about selfishness.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com.
It's the Savage Nation. Lou Pate filling in for Dr. Savage. He'll be back tomorrow. In the meantime, pick up a copy of the New York Times bestseller, Trump's War, His Battle for America. Trust me, folks, with all we've got going on in the country, more important now than ever. Going to talk to you about selfishness versus selflessness. We've got Hurricane Harvey, and our thoughts and our prayers go out to the people in the Houston area surrounding sections, Corpus Christi, Galveston, and some of the smaller towns. I don't know all of the names. Literally underwater, and the rain has not stopped. A lot of controversy going. It seems that all the storms now from here to the end of time are going to be politicized by the media. We already have criticism coming in on Donald Trump because he didn't acknowledge the victims in any of his tweets or any of the comments he made so far. It's like the folks in the media and those on the left are just sitting back saying, okay, which words didn't he use? And that is what we're going to jump on. We're going to be talking about the issue of people being assaulted by radical, violent leftists in Berkeley over the weekend and how the Patriot Prayer March in San Francisco was canceled. The ACLU is suing Donald Trump over the transgender military ban. And, of course, there's no surprise there that John McCain is against Trump's decision on banning transgender individuals. And something that I'm in favor, I can't wait to talk about this a little later. Donald Trump wants to lift the ban on giving first responders, police officers in this case, military equipment. It's a ban that should have never gone into place. But first, America comes together in Houston. Floods, 5 people dead. Hopefully that number will not rise. Many people homeless. Some people's homes will be gone for good. Their businesses will be gone for good. And you have the media, well, one, just wanting to get back to painting Donald Trump as a racist in reference to his pardon of Sheriff Joe Arpaio down there in Arizona. But more so, you have acts of humanity coming through, acts of bravery, heroic actions, American to American, black to white, white to black, old to young. It doesn't matter. The true America lies there in the middle, not the radical leftists with all their violence and the Antifa, not the white supremacists, not the neo-Nazis. When something like this happens, I'm watching TV. I'm looking at the first responders from all the different agencies, and I tip my hat. I tip my hat to Governor Abbott for being a strong leader so far in the infancy of this crisis. Other mayors and governors coming together from around the nation to chip in and doing it on their own, okay? Not about big government. It is not about big government. What we have here is the true America. Okay, it's come to the point in this nation where anytime a major catastrophe happens, a natural disaster, people start looking, is the Fed doing enough? Well, folks, that's not the Fed's job, okay? It's up to the local municipalities to handle situations like this. And down there in Houston and the surrounding towns in Harris County, they are doing an excellent job. But it has become the norm here in society where everybody looks to government. I don't know when this happened. Maybe it was Katrina with Mike Brown and George W. Bush, where everybody was blaming FEMA for all of the troubles that happened there with the levees breaking and nobody having a place to stay. Hey, a lot of that falls on the local jurisdictions. You got to remember, New Orleans, one of the most corrupt cities, if not the most corrupt city in the nation, didn't have a plan. You had Mayor Nagin, who ended up in jail years later, playing race. Meanwhile, people needed water. They needed goods and services. They needed a roof over their head. They needed to be rescued. The media was playing race. The leadership was playing race. I'm not seeing that on the part of the local jurisdictions right down there in Houston. It's all hands on deck, and everybody is doing what they have to do because they don't know what's coming. It's still a tropical storm. It's, skirting the coast over there. It's going to drop maybe 20, 30 more inches of rain there. And they're not looking for the federal government to bail them out. That's the beauty and all of the horror that is going on down there. Donald Trump is on hand so far showing leadership, but it's too early in the crisis to give him a grade on what's doing. He's going to be in Texas tomorrow. And, of course, some in the media are also pointing out that he's not going to Houston. Folks, you can't go to Houston. It's underwater, okay? The only thing that would cause there is a distraction. He'd be in the way. What's he going to do? Land on a rooftop and look down on the flooded areas? There's numerous other places in the great state of Texas down in that neck of the woods that are underwater. The president, the first lady, they'll be there tomorrow. They'll stay out of the way of the first responders and those in local jurisdictions that are doing their job. Here's a little bit of history for you. The flood of 1927, President Calvin Coolidge, he let the locals handle the situation. Up until maybe this flood, that was the worst flood in the history of our great country. And Calvin Coolidge let the locals handle it. It was a private-public partnership because Calvin Coolidge, probably the last president who realized that it is not the job of the federal government to take care of these situations. If that was the case, we wouldn't need our local police, our local governor, the mayors, the fire department, the police department. We wouldn't need that. Everything could be federalized. But everybody knows the federal government can't even run the post office. So how are they going to run small towns, big towns, and towns in between? Everybody should follow the lead of 1927 Calvin Coolidge. Let the locals handle it. And that's what we see going on here. That's what we see. We see a public-private partnership going on between Governor Abbott accepting help from neighboring states and even as far away as Boston to pitch in. You see the residents taking out their boats, their dinghies, their jet skis, wrestling their neighbors. Why are people surprised that people are taking it upon themselves to help others. That boggles my mind. People looking for the federal government. I look on TV. Well, what's Trump doing? What's Abbott doing? What's this one doing? We're going to get an update from the mayor. And meanwhile, on the ground, or in this case, in the water, in the Houston area, people are doing it themselves. Their own little Dunkirk there, if you will. They got their own private boats. They're going as far as they can. They're pitching in, assisting the local municipalities in rescuing people. I think there was over 2,000 people rescued just over the weekend alone, people who stayed behind, which then brings in the other argument. Houston leaders are defending, telling their residents not to flee. When they're telling you a storm of this magnitude is coming, personal responsibility kicks in, common sense. You got to leave. But it then becomes a locker room there. You've got the governor of Texas. You've got the new mayor of Houston, butting heads on this thing. Well, you have to look out for the safety of your people, whether you're a governor, whether you're a mayor, or whether you're the president. For the president, it's national security. For the governor, it's the security of the people in your state. For the mayor, it's the security of the people in your city. Okay? And if you're not looking out for the security of the people in your city, well, there's going to be consequences. But I'd like to focus on Americans coming together. And skin color doesn't matter. Do you know today's August 28th? It is the anniversary today, 1963. On this day, Dr. Martin Luther King gave his speech, I Have a Dream speech, in Washington, D.C. Think about it. We have Americans coming together, black helping white, white helping black, Hispanic helping black, all the different variations that you can think of. And it was on this day in 1963 that Dr. Martin Luther King gave that famous speech. And maybe his words are coming together. But then you look on the left, and all we see is violence and hatred and trying to squash free speech. It was also on this date, August 28th of 1968, that there were the Democratic riots in Chicago. How many of you are aware of that Dr. King's speech and the riots in 68 happened on the same day, just, 5 years apart? Interesting. And here we are, 49 years later, and people are coming together. But the bullhorns of society, the media, the activists, those who get in front of the cameras, try to paint America as a different place. Well, here on the Savage Nation, we're going to not only tell you how it really is, we are going to show you how it really is. We have audio that I commend the Savage Nation team for plucking out from TV. A Texas resident talks about trying to save lives after the Hurricane Harvey disaster. And we're going to counter this, with, let's just say, different behavior. First, actually, no, let's go in reverse. This is the left-wing view of America. We have the Antifa protesters at Berkeley's Civic Center Park screaming, "Whose park? Our park." A bunch of people beating up on a couple of Trump supporters. Robert, if you can, clip 2.
Whose park? Our park. 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 Whose park? Our park.
That's the left-wing vision of America. All the Antifa violence that's been going on since February, not one Democratic leader has condemned it. Not one Democratic leader has come forward to even criticize it. They just turn a blind eye. This type of behavior, this hate, is being promoted and accepted by the left. And when I say the left, I mean on the Hill, and I mean on your TV screen. Whether it's anybody on fake news outlet CNN or anybody on fake news outlet MSNBC, if they are not acknowledging it, they are promoting it. We see it going on everywhere the Antifa show up with the masks, the black hoodies, the baseball bats. Wherever they go, there is violence. If they don't show up at Charlottesville, there is no violence. I'm not taking the side of the white supremacists. I'm not taking the sides of the neo-Nazis. I'm just saying wherever the left wing in this country shows up, there is violence. But when the chips are on the table, when the rains come swirling in with 130-mile-an-hour winds, Category 4 Harvey batters into the state of Texas, and the aftermath, it's actually, folks, it's still going on as we speak. America comes together. I saved the best for last. Now we have the Texas resident just A regular person helping his neighbors. Robert, please, clip number 1.
You guys just jumping in to help out?
Yes, sir.
Yeah?
Yes, sir.
Where are you coming from?
Texas City.
Texas City?
Yes, sir.
What are you going to do?
I'll go try to save some lives.
Yeah?
Yes, sir.
This is horrible, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
There you have it. I'm going to try to save some lives. And you can tell by the tone, the pitch, the demeanor. It's a black male, okay? Very, very upbeat, very positive. He's going to go try and save some lives. Not going to say black lives, no. Going to save white lives, Hispanic lives, Asian lives. No, he's going to save all lives. Just save some lives. And at the end of the day, this is what America is, okay? This is what we do. We come together when people are down, and it doesn't matter whether you're a red state or a blue state. It doesn't matter if you voted for one side or the other side. You're trapped in your house and the waters are flooding. You're old, you're young. People literally carry people to the next level. There's that picture there. I think it's going to, well, the one that I've seen so far, a woman carrying her baby and a man carrying her. That's probably going to win an award, or it's going to be the picture that epitomizes this. I say call it a tragedy, but I call it a natural disaster, which then rallies people around to help one another. Yet there are some people in the media, there are some corners of society that are surprised. They're amazed that people are taking it upon themselves to help others. I don't know how you can be amazed. It's what America does. We help people all around the world. Why wouldn't we help ourselves? So I'd like to know from you, the listeners to the Savage Nation, are you surprised? Is this the real America? And why isn't the left and the leaders, the Schumers and what have you, Pelosi's, why aren't they speaking out against the left-wing violence? We're going to talk more about what went on in Berkeley. We're going to talk more about how free speech was squashed in the city of San Francisco over this past weekend. Pretty disgusting. But I also want to focus on the tragedy in Houston. They still don't know how much more water is coming or what they're going to do with the water that's there. They're trying to funnel it down the Trinity River to the shipping lanes there. I'm not too familiar with the geography of the area, but producer Jim is, and he was filling me in during the break. I'd like to know from you, is this the real America, or is this the Antifa? Or which America is going to win in the end, because there is a battle for free speech going on right now. 855-400-SAVAGE. Lou Pate here with you on the home of Trump's war, his battle for America, the Savage Nation.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
It's the Savage Nation. Lou Pate filling in for Dr. Savage. He'll be back tomorrow. In the meantime, be sure to pick up a copy of the New York Times bestseller list, Trump's War, His Battle for America. Trust me, folks, more important now than ever. You see what's going on in the country. You saw what's going on in San Francisco and Berkeley. We'll talk about that. But you see people fighting against the grain and what the media is presenting and coming together in Houston. It's all right there in Trump's War, His Battle for America. It's a visionary book that predicts and walks us through the times we are living in. 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-SAVAGE. Lou Pate here with you. Now, I'm looking at the media, and places like CNN and MSNBC, they're chomping at the bit. They can't wait to get back to trying to paint Trump as a racist, okay? You have Joe Arpaio being pardoned last Friday on a late Friday pardon dump, we'll call it, same day that Sebastian Gorka was either pushed out or was fired. It seems a few days later, no one cares about that. I'm not saying it's not important, but it seems to have been bumped aside by the hurricane and everything else that's going on. The media and people on the left are now like sharks in the water. They think they had Trump up against the ropes, painting him as a racist. People are even painting Joe Arpaio as a racist now. 50 years of service, no racism, but now all of a sudden they're trying to paint him as a racist. But pertaining to Houston, they're trying to find a way. The minute Trump does anything wrong, because right now it's too early to say, they're ready to pounce. They're already floating the idea, oh, he doesn't care about the victims. It's like the 2017 version of Katrina where Kanye West said George W. Bush doesn't care about black people. It's like, oh, he doesn't care about the victims. On Twitter, he's constantly patting himself on the back saying, look at what great job I did. Look what a great job I did. That's not true. I follow the president on Twitter and I read his tweets every morning. There must see reading, okay? And he's been commending the hard work of all of the first responders down there and everybody coming together. See, what we have here now is a media that lives in a bubble. And they're mostly in New York, D.C., and in L.A. And what we have there is, it's not the real world. Not saying New York's not the real world or D.C.'s not the real world. D.C.'s not the real world. But within these cities, they live in a bubble. Okay, I know New York like the back of my hands. I grew up, I know it, the subway better than anybody. But the media elite and the rich people, the Park Avenue from 59th Street up to 110th, Fifth Avenue, 59th up to 110th, Park Avenue, it's a different world. It's a bubble, and the media lives in this bubble. They don't seem to understand that Americans, for the most part, don't want to have to rely on government. Maybe New Yorkers do, my former neighbors. I'll criticize you because you guys keep voting in Democrats. Cuomo up there and the governor's mansion and that idiot de Blasio. I mean, enough can't be said about him. Maybe within the city, they think that government can do things. But outside of New York City, and you go through the whole great state of New York, everybody knows government can't shine its own shoes. So when I look at what's going on in Houston, I'm not surprised. But a lot of people in the major cities around the country, cities that have been told you need government can do it for you, they're amazed. They see regular citizens, black and white, jumping in their own boats. Some people on kayaks. They don't even have a motor. And they're rescuing people, even if it's just to rescue a dog. I saw a guy carrying a dog. It wasn't even his. I saw one, it was an old guy. They were helping him out of the house, stayed too long. It was one of those things, and people are saying, well, why didn't you leave? Well, you don't know which way the wind is going to blow when it comes to a storm. Everybody was talking about Corpus Christi, Everybody was talking about Galveston. Houston was on the list, but no one knew it was going to flood the way it did, or else they would have told us that. So I'd like to know from you, the listeners to the Savage Nation, at the end of this civil disturbance that we're in, the battle for free speech, which America is going to prevail? Is it the Antifa we saw squashing literally heads and free speech at Berkeley protests as the black-clad anarchists stormed a right-wing rally? Is it going to be the San Francisco liberals and the government there who shut down a patriot prayer rally by walling off a city park? Or is it going to be the Americans in Houston and the surrounding areas of Texas? Cities big and small, helping each other, just rescuing strangers, sharing their food, giving them dry clothes. I saw people going into the convention center. Police officers were there, blacks and whites, getting blankets, walking in. There were smiles, actually. Relief on the people who are passing through this area, and police officers just happy to be helping these people, giving them something dry to put on. That's the America that I think will win long term. I don't think the radical fringes on both the right and the left are going to be the America of the future. Because, quite frankly, the Antifa, you know what I see with them? It's like the Occupy Wall Street people put on black and took their show someplace else. That's really all it was. There was no rioting during Occupy Wall Street, but there was sexual assaults. There was a lot of drug use. There was a lot of stealing tent to tent. The media didn't focus on that at the time because they wanted to present this as some wonderful coming together of society against the evil 1%. You know, everybody with their $300 jeans coming down from Westchester County in Connecticut, as I talked about at the time. So I believe the good America, the America that doesn't see color, the America that doesn't see religion, nor does it use it against other people. It's just you see someone who's wet, they get to be dry. You see someone who's stranded, and they get rescued. Okay, and no one's asking any questions. Who did you vote for? The crazies in Berkeley would. The crazies in San Francisco, they would, supposedly the birthplace, the cradle of the free speech movement, where anything is welcome except free speech. Let's get to the phones. 855-400-SAVAGE. Let's go to Kimberly, KFAQ, Oklahoma. You're in the tornado belt there, Kimberly, so you know your share of natural disasters. They had some bad ones there. I believe it was Grove. Was it Grove? Where was the last one that tore up the school and a lot of people died just last year?
I didn't grow up here. I grew up in Detroit, via California, Wyoming, and I just moved out here from Wyoming. But I have a family here.
Any place but Detroit, right, Kimberly?
Southwest Detroit, Vernon, Springwells, inner city.
Now, how can I help you?
I agree with you that liberal media just wants to paint the worst. You know, when you got a marching band, you got like one tuba and one giant drum because it makes the loudest noise of all the instruments. It takes over. It's just, that's what it is. And I believe that tragedies really show the best in people. Yeah, there's some bad apples, but there are more good. And tragedies like this should be showcase the good and not the. You know, there's some bad. There are always going to be opportunists, rich or poor.
Well, of course. I mean, we see
American people care, and you're right. Don't care about color. Don't care if you're illegal. Don't care why you're here. People are drowning. People are trying to get help on top of houses. I'm going to tell you, just before I came here, I'm a retired nurse who had a head injury. I used to make $4,000 a month, and now I live on less than $800 a month on disability. I would rather work. And long story short, my sister and I just got back from a food bank, a private food bank, a church food bank. We were the only 2 white people in there. Didn't matter. 6 people sat and prayed for Houston, and we were all talking about when we get our disability on Friday, we might send $10 to the Red Cross. And I didn't see anybody talking black, white, poor, rich. I was just heard people talking and caring about people. Some people had relatives that were actually on the phone trying to reach relatives in Houston as we speak because it's not that far from Tulsa.
Pretty amazing. Well, you hang in there, Kimberly. Thank you very much. And considering the numbers you were talking about on what you live on, to give $10, that is extremely, extremely generous. I saw a lot of celebrities are giving money too, and that's nice. They can afford it, and it's a nice gesture to help out anybody in need. I just wish when celebrities and super rich people who give money, I just wish they would just give it and go silently into the night, you know, without wanting the fanfare. George at WABC New York. Welcome, George, to the Savage Nation. How are you?
Good, thanks. How you doing?
I'm all right. What's up?
Well, I wanted to say I saw the video of that African-American guy that was going to go save some lives.
Mm-hmm.
He was heading out to his pleasure boat. So let's not forget the system that gave the average person the means to buy themselves a boat for pleasure, which then could be used for something quick, as opposed to having to just sit and wait for the government to help because there's nobody else who can do it.
Now, George, why do you think some people are amazed that people are taking it upon themselves, like the gentleman you just cited, taking his own personal boat and let's go save some lives? Why do you think some people are surprised by that?
Well, I mean, sadly, because I think people are just so used to, have been indoctrinated into thinking that the government is supposed to do that, and the average person either can't or won't. No.
So it's the question is the Fed doing enough is the new normal. George, thanks for your call. I do appreciate it. Here's what's going on here, folks. We have the media really showing its true nature. And what I mean by that is they were saying this is the first big test for the Trump administration. This is over the weekend. I'm watching this constantly over the weekend. I can't tell if I had $1 for every time I heard someone say this is a big test for the Trump administration, or the first test for the Trump administration, the first natural disaster of the Trump administration. How will the Trump administration survive and respond? And I'm like, they don't even care about the people. The storm was still going on. The flood waters had risen, and the storm had, taken a right turn and gone where they didn't think it was going to go. And the flood was worse than anybody could have ever thought. And it's all about watching Trump. And it's all about getting ready to judge him and grade him and how he did here. And you know that the media and the Democrats on the left have already come up with how they feel. They've already graded him. They just haven't released it yet. They're just waiting for him to maybe stumble or flub a word. They've already jumped on that he's been mum on the victims. No, he hasn't. He's been tweeting and commenting every which way from Sunday. AJ at WABC, welcome to the Savage Nation. How are you?
Yes, good afternoon. I was just going to say the same thing practically. You know, they're trying to say that Trump's going to take away from resources and go there and try to politicize it like Obama would, but he wants to go there and show hands-on that he's a true executive. A true executive delegates authority to the best people, and he subs out the work to his best managers, and so far they're running everything right, and they're just looking for one little thing for him to trip up, and they're trying to say that if he goes there that he's going to take away from resources. No, he's not. He wants to get there and show that he's not politicizing it, and he's a true execuunder, and he's been in the construction and business like that, and he knows what he's doing, and he's going to make sure that the resources and everything gets there, and he's got it all under control, and it's going to make him look good because he deserves to look good because he's doing a job right, and the media just can't take it.
You're rolling around on your phone there, AJ. Hey, AJ, when did politicizing of storms and natural disasters become the norm? Because the storm wasn't even over yet, and they're wondering, is Trump going? I heard one say, is Trump going to make the same mistakes that George W. Bush made with Katrina? And I'm like, people are losing their houses, their businesses. Some people are probably losing their lives. And all they can care about is how will this reflect on Trump?
This is the difference between a bureaucrat, entrenched establishment politician and a real businessman executive that is a man of action and gets things done. Have a great day.
All right. Thank you, AJ. Do appreciate it. I think he's rolling around with his phone. And then we do have the issue. Should they have evacuated? Well, that's playing Monday morning quarterback. But, Greg Abbott was talking about getting the people out of there. Mayor Turner in Houston did not have people evacuate. Will he be regretting that when the waters recede and we find out what's underneath there? You just don't know. But it's a major city, and I think we've become complacent. What did they say? It's 142 months since a major storm has hit the United States coastline, and maybe he got too complacent. Maybe he's never lived through a storm. I don't know. I don't know his history, but we've learned just between 2004 and 2005 that you don't mess with these storms. You don't take them lightly. 130-mile-an-hour winds, even 75-mile-an-hour winds, you don't mess with. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back. Lou Pate here with you on The Savage Nation.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com.
It's the Savage Nation. Lou Pate filling in for Dr. Savage. He will be back tomorrow. In the meantime, pick up a copy of the New York Times bestseller, the book that debuted at the top of the New York Times bestseller list. It didn't creepy crawl its way up there. Trump's War, His Battle for America, more important now than ever. And in these times where free speech is under siege, you're definitely going to want to read the visionary Trump's War, His Battle for America. 855-400-SAVAGE. Lou Pate in for Dr. Savage. We're talking about the humanitarian effort going on, the search and rescue that's going on in Houston. It's first responders, it's citizens, it's neighboring states, and even Mexico. The Mexican government expressed its solidarity over the weekend with the United States, and that's what any good neighbor should do. This is in response to Hurricane Harvey. Mexico offered Texas a deal to help deal with the disaster. The foreign minister there told the Texas governor that they would give help. Also, the Mexican consul general in Austin, Carlos Gonzalez Gutierrez, says he has been in constant communication with Governor Abbott's office to help determine how Mexico can best help. And Gonzalez said, and I quote, "As we have done in the past, Mexico stands with Texas in this difficult moment." And for those of you who don't know, 12 years ago following Katrina, Mexico sent troops and a vessel filled with food, medicine, and water to aid the victims in New Orleans. That's a little-known fact. How many of you out there, and I know that the Savage Nation is well-informed people, how many of you actually knew that? A vessel filled with food, medicine, and water, and troops. Amazing. But this was in the Dallas Morning News. And you know what? then they have to take a left turn. The story should have ended right there, okay? We've got politicians from Mexico contacting the governor of Texas. Hey, we share a border. You guys are having a hard time with this story. We're going to help you. We've helped you in the past, but no. Then they go into talking about the wall and a tweet that Trump sent over the weekend about how we needed the wall. It's like, people just can't put politics aside for a minute, especially the never-Trumpers. They always have to paint him in a negative light. And we'll talk about that pertaining to the story and the part of Joe Arpaio when we return. Lou Pate here with you on The Savage Nation.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage. Warning: The Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of borders, language, culture. And here he is, winner of the National Radio Hall of Fame Award, Michael Savage.
I'll be going to Texas tomorrow. I look very much forward to it. Things are being handled really well. The spirit is incredible of the people. The coordination between all of the different services, as you know, has been going very well. Great respect for the governor. He's done an incredible job. And I look forward to the trip. So I'll be going there tomorrow. We're leaving at about 8:30 in the morning. We don't know exactly which sections. We'll be notifying you soon, but we'll be traveling throughout certain parts, and we may actually go back on Saturday. Depending on where the storm goes, we may also go to Louisiana on Saturday. It's the biggest ever. They're saying it's the biggest. It's historic. It's really like Texas, if you think about it. But it is a historic amount of water in particular. There's never been anything like it. So the people are handling it amazingly well, and the people of Texas, as you know, have really persevered. And when you watch the spirit and the enthusiasm and helping each other, the teamwork, it's really been something for people to say. It's been pretty incredible what they've been able to do.
It's the Savage Nation. Lou Pate here for Dr. Savage. He'll return tomorrow. And in the meantime, pick up a copy of Trump's War, His Battle for America. That was President Donald Trump just moments ago, literally just moments ago, bringing you the latest on his comments on Hurricane Harvey and talking about the amount of water and his trip there and how he'll go to Louisiana, I guess is the breaking news out of that one. I didn't know he was going to be going to Louisiana. I'm sure the mainstream media is going to find something to criticize in his statements there because that is what they are doing. They are just waiting to pounce. They are like sharks in the water waiting for him to screw up. Now, folks, here's what's happening here. Okay, we have the storm. We have the first responders who I cannot say enough for what the official responders and the unofficial responders, the citizens, are doing down there in Houston and the surrounding small towns. It's pretty incredible how Americans coming together to help Americans. We talked about the Texas resident talking about trying to save lives with his own personal boat, a black man. Okay, now the media wants to paint this picture that blacks hate whites, whites hate blacks, and there's all this division. But it's a very small part of the population. Here is what is going on with the American media, I will tell you. Prior to the storm coming, they were trying to paint Donald Trump into a corner as a racist coming out of Charlottesville and the initial comments that he made. There is no one on the face of the earth who can tell me or anybody else what was racist about that initial statement he made. It might not have been well worded. It might not be the words people wanted to hear, but there was nothing racist about it. So since then, regardless of the fact that there was nothing racist about it, they've been trying to paint him as a racist. Jump ahead 2 weeks, and you have the issue of the pardon of Sheriff Joe Arpaio just last Friday night. A man with 50 years of law enforcement service to the country, including that of a DEA agent. Now they're trying to paint him as a racist because they're trying to paint Trump as a racist. All right. A lot of racism going on here, but they can't seem to cite any. Joe Arpaio is a good guy. OK, he is the former sheriff of Maricopa County. OK, border state of Arizona. A lot of illegals coming through there. Over the years, he came up with a system to detain the illegals, okay? And in so, he would then put them in these little tent cities, make them wear pink underwear, let them eat horrendous meatloaf because prison is not supposed to be fun. And for the last quarter century, the left has been trying to take him down. Finally, they found a female judge who told him he cannot profile, he cannot have his deputies bring in the illegals the way in the fashion that they have been bringing them in. Allegedly, they continued to do so, and they put him on trial, and he was convicted of criminal contempt, basically not listening to the judge. In my opinion, the final word to go after Joe Arpaio, finally, after all these years, came from the Obama administration. Everything comes from the top, and that one came roaring down, not in a trickle, but in like a boulder going down the hill. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking with it, okay? Because everything came from Obama, in my opinion, on the IRS, and everything else was sending Holder to the family of Michael Brown, having Black Lives Matter to the White House. It all comes from the top. You cannot do these things unless the president signs off on it. So why, after 25 years, did they all of a sudden go after Sheriff Joe Arpaio? Obama said, before I leave, let's go get him. Again, that's just my opinion. That is not the opinion of the Savage Nation. That's just where my gut tells me it. You look at the behavior of Obama over the years, and that's what you have. But anyway, I just wanted to give you the front story on that. So with this, we have people all over the media on the right, the Karl Roves, the John Kasichs, the others coming out saying it was a bad move. We have Terry McAuliffe saying that Trump's decision to pardon Arpaio was a bad decision. Jorge Ramos from Univision, go back to Univision. It's my favorite Trump line. And the CNN's what's her name, Ana Navarro. This one, her Spanish accent gets stronger as we go by. She's going to turn into Charo soon. I swear. She's going to be saying coochie coochie. You know how Sofia Vergara, the actress, has that strong Hispanic accent? Obviously that's for effect. And this one's accent gets stronger and stronger. But anyway, what is going on here now is the media is chomping at the bit to get back to the issue of painting Donald Trump as a racist. And now they're trying to use the pardon of Arpaio to do that. But inconveniently, along comes Hurricane Harvey with an historic amount of rainfall. People calling it biblical, but all I know is it's a lot of water. And the city of Houston and a lot of the smaller surrounding towns, which we don't know their names, are underwater as well. And that has taken away the momentum of them painting Trump as a racist. Doesn't mean they're not still doing it. CNN and MSNBC, every little moment they have where they're not covering the storm, they try to get it in there, but it's not sticking because people are concerned with what's going on down there in Houston. So the backup plan is Trump will mess this up. Trump will mess up this situation in Houston. And even if he doesn't mess it up, we're going to say he messed it up. We saw inklings of that by just like with the Charlottesville comment where they didn't like what he said, so they painted it as racist, even though they can't point to any racism in the speech. They've already started to say he does not care about the victims in Houston because in all of his tweets, he keeps talking about first responders, everybody coming together, a great job. It's horrible what happened down there, people coming together and working, rescues. Oh, but he didn't mention the victims. That's how petty it is. That's the direction that they're going. So the media and those on the left are sitting with their fingers crossed, hoping that Trump screws this up in some way. And when I say screw it up, it could be as simple as, he didn't tie his shoe on camera the way they wanted him to tie his shoe. And Trump didn't tie his shoe the way he doesn't care about the victims. Because right now he's doing a great job. Okay? He's doing a fantastic job letting the local jurisdictions do their job. He'll give them whatever they want. As a matter of fact, let's play a clip of Texas Governor Abbott Clip number 4, Robert, saying what happened when he talked to Donald Trump.
I give FEMA a grade of A+, all the way from the president down. I've spoken to the president several times, to his cabinet members, such as Secretary of Homeland Security, such as the administrator of FEMA, such as Tom Price, the Secretary of Health and Human Services, and so all across the board. We've never been more prepared for a storm than we have been this time. It's been extremely professional, very helpful. He called and said, Governor, whatever you need, you've got. And this is the quickest turnaround I've ever seen from the time that a governor made a disaster declaration to getting that granted.
You're not going to see that clip or hear that clip on CNN. You're not going to hear that on MSNBC. And I'm sure if the governor, as busy as he is, and he has been making the media rounds, was to say that, somehow they'd probably lose power or lose their connection with him. But that is what is going on. President Trump is giving the local jurisdictions what they need, and then he's stepping back. And now he's going to go there tomorrow and possibly to Louisiana on Saturday. He said depends which way the storm goes, to show face, because a lot of what a president does is symbolic. People want to see their leaders in times of trouble, and they just want to shake a hand or know that they were nearby to show that they care, to know that their leaders care. But more importantly, they need water. They need blankets. They need dry clothes. They need a place to sleep. And that's really what they care about. So that's what they're bringing. But the media is just sitting there. The sharks are in the water. They're going in and out. They're looking for blood. And meanwhile, the racism story is dying. Doesn't mean they're not going to bring it up next week when this story becomes the second story on the news. But they're going to keep doing it. That's what's going to happen. They're hoping he messes this up, but they're just looking them to fall back on the Arpaio thing. Now, I want to play you this clip. Terry McAuliffe is running for president, okay? And he says the decision to pardon Arpaio is a bad decision, and it goes against the rule of law. Now, Terry McAuliffe is part of the Clinton crime family of Arkansas, okay? Now, he is wrong, because in the United States, the pardon power for federal crimes is granted to the President of the United States under Article 2, Section 2 of the United States Constitution, which states that the President, and I quote, shall have the power to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, except in cases of impeachment. And, well, the United States Supreme Court has interpreted this language to include the power to grant pardons, conditional pardons, commutations of sentence, conditional commutations of sentence, remissions of fines and forfeitures, and amnesties. Okay? There you have it. So Terry McAuliffe is just trying to make a name for himself. He's trying to get some left-wing credibility. But, Robert, if you please, clip number 10.
Bad decision. Goes against the rule of law. I can tell you as governor, one of the most important decisions I make are those that I pardon. I look for folks who, for redemption, to be able to go back into the workforce. And this pardon that he did had nothing to do with it. And I do agree with Senator Schumer. At a time right now, after we've had Charlottesville and other issues, it is time for reconciliation, time for healing. Let us bring this country together.
Once you say I agree with Senator Schumer, you've lost all credibility there, because Schumer has no credibility. Why Terry McAuliffe is wrong and his history, well, we'll talk about that when we come back. If you'd like to get in on the action here, 855-400-SAVAGE. If you're holding, please continue to hold. We're going to continue to talk about this. Do you see what the media is doing, or are they doing an end around you? You're so involved, you're so enthralled by the video, because it is pretty mesmerizing, that you don't see that they're hoping that Trump messes this up. They're hoping they can get back to painting him as a racist, because they did it all throughout the weekend as the storm was happening. Or am I wrong? Lou Pate here with you on The Savage Nation.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com.
It's the Savage Nation. Lou Pate filling in for Dr. Savage. He'll be back tomorrow. In the meantime, pick up a copy of the book that debuted #1 on the New York Times bestseller list, Trump's War, His Battle for America, More Important Now Than Ever. You have the left in this country, along with the media and the left-wing politicians on the Hill trying to shut down free speech. That's all predicted right there in Trump's war. Joe Arpaio, 50 years of service, and the media hates Donald Trump so much, and they were trying to paint him as a racist after Charlottesville and getting some traction in some circles, but then the storm came in and threw them off their momentum, and now a collateral damage in this is Joe Arpaio, because everybody now is trying to paint this guy as a racist. And I read a report today that said he might run for senator against Jeff Flake. Oh, how I would love that if he just bumped Jeff Flake, and how if the people of Arizona would elect him as a senator, even though he's 85 years old, age might come into it. But it's amazing that a guy with a distinguished career as a federal law enforcement officer, a state law enforcement local officer, a county sheriff, is now being painted as a racist because they're trying to bring down Donald Trump. Excuse me. Let's get to the phone. John at WABC, welcome to the Savage Nation. Thank you for holding.
All right, sweet Lou, and also adding U.S. Army veteran with Joe Arpaio. Let me tell you the best story about Joe Arpaio. About 10 years ago, the Mexican drug cartel put a hit on his head for $4 million. You know what Big Joe said? He goes, "That's all?" Guys, the man is fearless. And let me tell the people down in Texas, the Lone Star State, there are millions of Americans out here who are going to help you. They're either going to come down there and help you. There are some of them already getting down there who are going to help you either with money, with supplies and food. You will be helped, and this will be a first-class operation as long as everybody cooperates. I couldn't care less what the media says, what they think about Trump. The only problem is that the administrations always have to fall for the president has to fly to these areas. I believe that's really a deterrent when you do something like that, because the president going into those areas, you got to set it up. There's no need for him to be there. Let the rescue people get in there and do their things. Now, I'm in New York. We've had hurricane, Looney Tune, left-wing politics for the last 50 years here. This city, New York City, is a third-world dump, believe it or not. Our transportation system, right, whether it's airports, trains, our highways, third-world countries have better transportation systems than New York City. They will not unleash, ready for this, the greatest craftsmen in the world. The Americans who are in New York City, these construction workers who are tradesmen, craftsmen, unionized construction workers, they would turn New York City and bring it back into the 21st century. Instead, they want this country and this city to be flooded by illegal aliens. That is a horror show what's taking place. But as far as Texas is concerned, these people are going to be helped. Over in Jersey, you know what goes on in Jersey? They scare the senior citizens. Oh, we're going to run out of pension fund money. We're going to run out of Social Security.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Notice they never talk about running out of welfare checks. This is nonsense what's going on. This is the greatest country on the planet, and we're going to keep it that way.
Well said, Jonathan. Thank you very much for listening to the Savage Nation. I love the passion, and he's right. He's right. They're all going to come together, and you're going to see firefighters and police officers and other first responders, but they're not just first responders. People are taking it upon themselves in Houston to help their fellow neighbors. People who don't know their people in their community are just helping them, because when people need help, that's what Americans do. Lou Pate here with you. You are listening to The Savage Nation.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
I want to begin today by extending my thoughts and prayers for those affected by Hurricane Harvey and the catastrophe of flooding and all of the other difficulties that they're currently going through in Houston, in southeast Texas, and now it's looking more and more like the state of Louisiana will be also affected. My administration is coordinating closely with state and local authorities in Texas and Louisiana to save lives, and we thank our first responders and all of those involved in their efforts.
Welcome back to the Savage Nation. Lou Pate sitting in for Dr. Savage. He'll be back tomorrow. In the meantime, pick up a copy of the New York Times bestseller, Trump's War, His Battle for America. And we are living through that battle as we speak. And if you read this book, it's like reading the events of our time in real time. Trust me, folks, it's amazing the vision that Dr. Savage had when putting this book together. You will not be disappointed. Something that disappoints me, Republicans. You know, we'll talk in a little while about the celebrities at the Video Music Awards yesterday that, you know, mocking Trump and taking pot shots at him because they are in denial that he won. But the Never Trumpers are in the same boat. We have people like Karl Rove. We have people like John Kasich, John McCain, Paul Ryan. They just can't seem to get on board. The election is over, and now they're still trying to drag down Trump. We're talking about the pardon of Sheriff Joe Arpaio, for which the media and the left is trying to drag Arpaio's 50 years of law enforcement service through the mud, painting him as a racist, which is like the worst thing that anybody can possibly do. And now we have the Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, opposing President Trump's pardon of Arpaio, and John McCain also criticizing the decision. Gee, surprise, surprise, ladies and gentlemen. How long have I been telling the great listeners of the Savage Nation that John McCain, Paul Ryan, and I always throw in Mitch McConnell, will never be on the side of Trump, which means they will never be on the side of you. So if you're listening in Wisconsin, you're listening in Kentucky, you're listening in Arizona, you have to take this into consideration the next time you see their names on a ballot, because they don't care about you. All they care about is power. And same goes for Karl Rove. Robert, if we can, this is Karl Rove talking about Trump's pardon of Arpaio. Clip number 8, please.
The president is entitled under the Constitution to have an unlimited power of pardon. I think he ill-exercised it in this instance. Sheriff Arpaio was found guilty of violating a federal court order for over a year that said to stop racially profiling people for driving Latino or walking Latino. And he openly defied it and said he was going to continue the current policy that the federal court had told him to stop.
And what Karl Rove doesn't tell you there is he was doing his job. Okay, as sheriff of Maricopa County, he was doing his job and picking up and arresting illegals who were coming across the Mexican border. That's what he was doing. But you have to remember, Karl Rove comes from the George W. Bush administration, the administration for which had my support, except for their amnesty policy. I did not agree with their amnesty policy. I felt that was a cop-out. It was a way of saying, well, we don't know what to do about this problem. And we don't want to come off as the bad guys because the media and the Democrats are going to say nasty things about us. So we're just going to give them amnesty. So Karl Rove, who had 8 years to deal with it and did nothing, is not a very good architect, in my opinion. But he's also just a never Trumper. Let's get back to the phones. 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Stan at Dr. Savage's flagship in San Francisco, KSFO. Welcome, Stan. Thank you for holding.
Great. Thanks for taking my call. Listen, just a couple of comments. One is everybody seems to forget Obama pardoned all these guys out of Gitmo. I don't know how many guys came out of there, but these guys, half of them returned to the battlefield. But the other part is how many guys did he pardon, all these drug dealers and bank robbers and thieves and murderers? I think it was somewhere in the 1,500 to 2,000 range of bad dudes put back on the street. And it's unbelievable. These people are griping about one old 85-year-old man. It's like you say, he served 50 years, and they let all these other more thugs back on the street to do crime. It's just unbelievable to me, the hypocrisy of the media.
Well, Stan, that's an excellent point. And how many of those people ended up back at Gitmo? How many of those people ended up getting back into drugs and in crime and ended up back in jail? I've caught a few stories here and there about, there was one guy, it was 7 days after he got out of prison, he was back in jail. Another one, I think it was 3 weeks, he was shot dead because he got caught up in the same type of drug activity. I forget all the details, but the media doesn't want to cover that. So we have a guy, 50 years law enforcement service. The only complaints against Joe Arpaio came from the left. for the last 25 years or so, Stan. So I figure if the left is complaining about somebody, then you must be doing your job right, because I saw what he did as doing his job. Yeah, he was found guilty of criminal contempt, but he was found guilty of criminal contempt not by a jury of his peers, Stan, as you know. He was found in contempt by a judge who I felt was being a liberal activist. But they're never going to let it go. They're still carrying water for Obama and not reporting on what you just said, releasing terrorists from Gitmo, giving pardons to drug offenders, and so on and so forth. It's not even just hypocrisy. It's propaganda, and they're in denial about what the truth is. But they know the truth. They just don't care. It's all about pushing that narrative forward, Stan. What do you think?
Yeah, where was McCain's outrage when he did all this? And where was Ryan's outrage? Those guys are such phonies. It's unbelievable. I've lost so much respect for McCain. It's just all over for him with me.
Well, I've never had much respect for McCain, but I'll tell you this: it's so funny is that, and feel free to agree or disagree, Stan. I feel that McCain blames Trump more so for him not being president than he blames Obama. I know that sounds stupid, but it's more he's more angry at Trump for achieving becoming president of the United States than he's mad at Obama for bumping him during his opportunities. Probably a better way to say it.
I agree. Trump did what he couldn't do, and so he can't get over it.
Nope. I call it Trump envy. Stan, thanks for your call, and do whatever you can there in San Francisco. They're a little crazy there. See what we saw going on where they were shutting down free speech just this past week in Berkeley, but also right in the city of San Francisco where they canceled the Patriot prayer meeting. It's free speech being violated. Nobody seems to care. Where is Dianne Feinstein? Where is the mayor of San Francisco? Where are all of our activists who supposedly care about free speech? Where is everybody? Where is the ACLU? Think about this. We talked about right here on the Savage Nation just last week, and Dr. Savage has talked about it as well, with the ACLU weighing whether, and I quote, some free speech isn't worth defending after Charlottesville. Are you kidding me? The ACLU, they got a little slap on the hand from their followers who are intolerant. They're faced with an angry backlash for defending the white supremacists' right to march in Charlottesville. And now, within the ACLU, they're confronting a feeling among some of its members that was once considered heresy, that maybe, possibly, some speech isn't worth defending. Are you kidding me? That just shows the intolerance of the ACLU as well, that they are not about free speech. They are just another arm of the liberal propaganda wing of the Democratic Party. Now, people get annoyed, and I've said this many times, but it bears worth repeating. All of this is good, folks. It is good. The election of Donald Trump was wonderful, and it has exposed the hypocrisy of the left. It has exposed even more so the intolerance of the left. It has totally destroyed the media's credibility on anything. They think they're going to be able to come back after something like this, after the years of Trump. They are not going to be able to. They have exposed themselves as Goebbels propagandists, and that's all they are. And now we see the same type of thing in San Francisco. Forget this cradle of the birthplace of free speech. That's out the window. Berkeley in February, Berkeley in August, San Francisco just the other day, again, not allowing a Patriot prayer march. Again, it doesn't matter who is speaking. It doesn't matter what they are saying. It's their right to do so. And the time to defend it is when you disagree with what they're saying the most. That cannot be said enough. Unless, of course, you're like Nancy Pelosi, who said, you can't cry wolf in a movie theater. I kid you not, folks. I did not make that up. The illustrious San Francisco's own, golf clap for her, Nancy Pelosi, instead of saying you can't yell fire in a movie theater, which is a paraphrase of a decision that was handed down by the Supreme Court. I forget the justice who brilliantly wrote that. I apologize. And also, the boy who cried wolf. She combined the two, and she's you can't cry wolf in a movie theater is what she said. But then again, she still thinks that George W. Bush.
My hope is that the Park Service would not allow these elements to use a national park to spew forth their venom. The Constitution does not say that a person can yell wolf in a crowded theater. If you are endangering people, then you don't have a constitutional right to do that.
Thank you very much, guys. See, Team Savage over here bringing you the latest on Donald Trump, proving my words on Nancy Pelosi. I didn't even have to ask them for that. They pulled it out. That's funny. Thank you, guys. That's brilliant. Can't cry wolf in a movie theater. Before we go to break, I want to show how people are not getting on board. Robert, if you can, play clip number 7. This is John Kasich saying he does not agree with Trump's pardon of Arpaio.
We do clemencies over time, but we make sure that people did proper restitution. I wouldn't have done it this way. It is absolutely should be out of bounds for somebody to use that as some sort of a political wedge. It appears as though that's what it was. It's not the way I operate here, with the power to be able to give people a second chance. But the president has that power. I don't agree with what he did. It's not the way I operate. I can't be any more loud in what I have to say than to tell you what I do, because my actions reflect the way I feel.
How frustrated is this guy? Number one, that he's never going to be president. How frustrated is he, like John McCain, that Donald Trump is president? Now, I don't agree with everything that Donald Trump has done. Actually, when he shoots himself in the foot with many of the tweets, it drives me crazy. I do think that he has bent over backwards trying to work with the establishment, and it has only hurt him. As I've mentioned many times about Ryan and McConnell, and Trump's a businessman. He put Elaine Chao as a cabinet member in his administration so that he can then go back to Mitch McConnell and say, listen, I gave your wife a job. She's useless, but I gave her a job. Now let's work with me. No, it didn't happen that way. So he's learned the hard way, and he's made a few bad decisions thinking you can work with these people. These people, Washington politicians, are worse than any con man, any bully, union member, mafioso, whatever you're going to talk about that he had to deal with in New York City. I worked in the New York City construction industry. I had to deal with these guys, not on a level like Trump, but you have to deal with them regardless of what level you on. And the level of sleaze is nothing compared to the level of sleaze that he's dealing with them. So I do think, as Dr. Savage said about a week and a half ago, that his knees had buckled. And that is true. But you learn from that, hopefully, and we go on. Right now, the pardon of Arpaio was a good call because Arpaio never should have been charged with anything. He basically was put on trial for doing his job. Obama didn't like the job he was doing, and he finally gave the lefties the court case that they wanted for the last 25 years. That's my opinion, that it came from Obama. And then once he's convicted, Trump comes in, saw it for the kangaroo court that it was, and he put him out. So it's funny because Trump did away with the Clinton dynasty. He got rid of Kasich. He got rid of Rand Paul. He got rid of the Bush dynasty. He got rid of Ted Cruz. He toppled all of these Republicans. He toppled the DNC. He toppled Obama indirectly in a way. He's toppling now the media. And what I mean by that is he's doing this just by allowing them to show that, number one, the media is not news organizations at all, they're propagandists, and that everybody on the left who does not condemn the violence of the Antifa are intolerant themselves. And all of his actions, even when he has shot himself in the foot, just his mere existence is showing the true colors of all these people. We're now seeing it with the Arpaio coverage because they just want to call him a racist. They're going to drag poor Joe down trying to do that. And now it's a wait and see. How is he going to handle it? The situation in Texas, in Houston, Hurricane Harvey. We'll see. Any little bump in the road, they're going to try to make a mountain out of a molehill. You watch. They want Trump to mess this up so bad, and they're going to go to any extremes to make that happen. Lou Pate here with you. If you'd like to get in on the conversation, 855-400-SAVAGE. You are listening to The Savage Nation.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com.
It's the Savage Nation. Lou Pate filling in for Dr. Savage, and he will be back tomorrow. But in the meantime, pick up a copy of the New York Times bestseller, Trump's War, His Battle for America. Book's been out for a few months, but it's like it's brand new with everything that it covers and how it really reflects what we are going through right now on the things we speak about every day here on the Savage Nation. So it is definitely a must-read, and I guarantee it will not be a disappointment. Trump's War, His Battle for America. 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Coming up in the next hour, we're going to give you hot off the presses. Jim and Robert are working very hard, multitasking behind the scenes. Comments made just mere minutes ago by President Trump in reference to his pardon of Joe Arpaio. I will not even tease it. I'm just going to tell you this is something that you're definitely going to want to hear, so keep it here at the Savage Nation. In the meantime, as we make our way to the top of the hour, Republicans got to get on board. You know, we expect the CNNs and their panels and MSNBCs and their panels and Univisions and their panels to cast the same old stone of racism, but we really need Republicans, even the never-Trumpers, to get on board. Admit that he's looking out for the country, trying to do his best. And what's wrong with that? Lou Pate here with you, the Savage Nation.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage. Warning. The Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of borders, language, culture. And here he is, winner of the National Radio Hall of Fame Award, Michael Savage.
It's the Savage Nation. Lou Pate filling in for Dr. Savage. He will be back tomorrow. In the meantime, go to michaelsavage.com, get all of your news and headlines there, and pick up a copy of the New York Times bestseller, Trump's War, His Battle for America. More important now than ever. And there are numerous battles going on right now, and we invite you into our fray to discuss them. 855-400-SAVAGE. We're talking about the pardon of Sheriff Joe Arpaio. We're going to be playing you some sound of President Trump just a few moments ago discussing the pardon, defending the pardon, and backing it up with a little bit of history. But first, I just wanted to let you know, people usually talk about pardons. They happen throughout the course of a president's whole term in office, but usually everybody focuses on the last day because that's when they tend to do the controversial ones, your Mark Riches and people like that. And because then there's nothing anybody can do. You're gone. You leave the next day and you're done. So the second term, last day, or if you're not reelected like George H.W. Bush, it's the last day of your first term. But everybody's making a big stink because they're politicizing it like they do everything, including now the weather, as we've seen since Katrina and every storm on down through Harvey, which is still taking place and making its way towards Louisiana. But former President Obama pardoned 212 people and commuted the sentences of 1,715 people. Now, that information was given to me by Robert, the producer, and I asked him, is that a lot? Because I didn't know. I mean, we hear about the pardons, but I'm saying, is this the norm? Well, I don't know. But so, no, the answer is that is a lot. No, this is not the norm. If you want to give a comparison, George W. Bush, 189 pardons. Okay, that's not far from Obama's 212, but only 11 commutations, as opposed to Obama's 1,715. Bill Clinton, 396 pardons. Okay, he's got more than Obama, but only 61 commutations, opposed to Obama's 1,715. George H.W. Bush, okay, only one term, but 74 pardons and only 3 commutations. You want to go all the way back to Nixon. We've got Nixon with 863 pardons, but only 60 commutation. So you're talking a combination 2, 12, 17, 15. That's a lot. And Gerald Ford, well, nobody cares. But the one pardon that got him into trouble was when he pardoned said former President Nixon. Now, we have some audio here of President Trump. Just a few moments ago, he was talking about a lot of things, mostly Hurricane Harvey, talking about, almost 8,500 federal workers assisting the people down there, but the municipalities, the local branches of government are working hard there, and they really took the bull by the horns on this. And although, as we played audio before of Governor Abbott saying, Trump called and said, whatever you want, you've got. They're like a well-oiled machine down there taking the bull by the horns and running with it and not waiting for the federal government. In this case, as it appears right now, the federal government is coming through under the Trump leadership. But if they didn't, they weren't going to wait for it, because you see what happens with the federal government. But Robert, if we can, this was President Trump talking about Hurricane Harvey, but during that same press conference mentioned this issue of the pardon of Joe Arpaio.
But I wanted to look at some of the other people that were pardoned over the years. And if you look at, as an example, President Clinton pardoned Mark Rich, who was charged with crimes going back decades, including illegally buying oil from Iran while it held 53 American hostages, wasn't allowed to do that, selling to the enemies of the United States. He was pardoned after his wife donated hundreds of thousands of dollars to the Clintons. Then you have dangerous criminals. President Clinton pardoned Susan Rosenberg, a member of the weathered underground, charged as part of a bank robbery that led to a guard and 2 police officers being killed. Drug dealers. President Clinton commuted the sentence of Carlos Vignali, a central player in a cocaine ring that stretched from California to Minnesota. Criminal leaker. You've heard the word leaker. President Obama commuted the sentence of Chelsea Manning, who leaked countless sensitive and classified documents to WikiLeaks, perhaps and others, but horrible, horrible thing that he did, commuted the sentence, and perhaps pardoned. President Obama commuted the sentence of Oscar Lopez Rivera, who was charged as part of a violent independence group from Puerto Rico responsible for 28 Chicago area bombings and many deaths in the 1970s and 1980s. Sheriff Joe is a patriot. Sheriff Joe loves our country. Sheriff Joe protected our borders. And Sheriff Joe was very unfairly treated by the Obama administration, especially right before an election that he would have won. I stand by my pardon of Sheriff Joe, and I think the people of Arizona who really know him best would agree with me. Thank you very much.
There you have President Trump just a few moments ago. Now, all of the hypocrites are coming out of the woodwork. John McCain, Paul Ryan, the bitter John Kasich. Who's more bitter, John Kasich or John McCain? I can't imagine. But, hey, Robert, we played this clip before, but then I wanted to follow up on it, but I want people to hear it with a fresh eye. It's clip number 10, Terry McAuliffe, governor of Virginia, and the audacity of this guy. But he's part of the Clinton crime family of Arkansas, so we shouldn't be surprised. Please, clip number 10 again.
Bad decision. Goes against the rule of law. I can tell you as governor, one of the most important decisions I make are those that I pardon. I look for folks who, for redemption, to be able to go back into the workforce. And this pardon that he did had nothing to do with it. And I do agree with Senator Schumer. At a time right now, after we've had Charlottesville and other issues, it is time for reconciliation, time for healing. Let us bring this country together.
Terry McAuliffe should just say, I'm running for president in 2020. I'm running for president in 2020. I'm running for president in 2020, and leave out all the other words, because that's all he is saying. Terry McAuliffe was head of the DNC. Okay, his job was fundraising. Terry McAuliffe is also part of the Clinton inner circle. Now, you can infer by what President Trump said about Mark Rich that Mark Rich bought his pardon, which basically he did in so many words. I'll tell you about that in a few more moments. Terry McAuliffe allowed for 60,000 felons to be able to vote. This was a week before the 2016 presidential election. The poll numbers were close in Virginia. Hillary Clinton was close to losing it. They did not want to lose Virginia, especially since one of her consiglieres in the Clinton mafia, Terry McAuliffe, is the governor. It'd be very embarrassing to him if Ma Barker Clinton lost his state. So a week before the election, he allows for 60,000 felons to vote. How many of them voted, I don't know. But I'll tell you this. Hillary Clinton only won the state of Virginia by 12,000 votes. Okay? And I firmly believe that if Terry McAuliffe does not allow those thousands of felons to vote, Hillary Clinton does not win the state of Virginia. That's just my opinion there. Now, you have to also look at the fact of why did he do that? Why did he do that? Because he knows they roll the dice. The overwhelming majority of these felons are probably going to vote Democrat. That's just the way the numbers always fall. So he allows these people to vote because he knows they're probably going to vote for her. Even if a bunch of them don't vote, or if a bunch of them don't vote for her, the overwhelming majority will. And she squeaked through. That's a squeaker, folks. 12,000 votes in a state she should have won overwhelmingly. The other thing that Terry McAuliffe has done was, do you remember the sad story of the anchor, the reporter out on the street? And I apologize, no disrespect, I don't remember her name, but she was doing a shoot, and her cameraman, photojournalist, and an angry ex-employee came up and executed both of them live on the air. Shot the cameraman in the back of the head because he's the male, you want to take him out first, and then shot the woman, blonde woman, while she was interviewing somebody. And the woman she was interviewing, rightfully so, took off, and I guess she wasn't a target, so she didn't die. The bodies were not even to the morgue. And the first comments that Terry McAuliffe made was about, we got to get these guns off the street. Never once mentioned the victims, never once mentioned that it was a heinous act to have these people shot while they're filming something on TV. Horrible. And all he can care about is being a complete ideologue. This guy is born in the Clinton closet. He does not have skeletons in the closet. He is one of the skeletons in the Clinton closet. Now, he's going to run, and it's going to be very, very interesting because there is going to be so much dirt on this guy coming up through the Clinton mafia, then being a consigliere, then being head of the DNC. I don't think he's going to make 2 or 3 primaries, if that, because this guy is so dirty that there's no way that he's going to be able to wash it off. Not with his whole career. When you lay down with dogs, in this case the Clintons, you are going to wake up with fleas, and if Bill Clinton's laying next to you, maybe some sexually transmitted diseases too. But it'll be interesting to see how far Terry McAuliffe will get. I don't think he's going to get that far. Trying to come off as like a regular guy. Oh, let's follow the rule of law. But as I said before, the President of the United States under Article 2, Section 2 of the United States Constitution states the President, and I quote, shall have the power to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States except in cases of impeachment. And it goes on and on and on. But that's the general gist. So Terry McAuliffe, he thinks he's flying high. He thinks Trump is vulnerable. But there's one little news story that they tend to bury. As recently as a month ago, they said, if the election were held today, Trump would have won again. If you want to get in on the conversation, it's 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-SAVAGE. Do you think Sheriff Joe should have been pardoned? I think he should have. Why is it a coincidence that all the people who say he should not have been pardoned are enemies of President Trump? Think about that. Lou Pate here with you. You are listening to The Savage Nation.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com.
It's It's the Savage Nation. Lou Pate sitting in for Dr. Savage. He will return tomorrow, and I encourage you to pick up a copy of the New York Times bestseller, Trump's War, His Battle for America. It will give you insight like none before into what is going on in our times now, from the Antifa down to the breaking down of symbolisms and culture and free speech, and how those on the inside are trying to take down our president. It is all right there within Trump's war, his battle for America, and more. If you want to get in on the conversation, it's 855-400-SAVAGE. As I touched on earlier, and we've been keeping you updated, the flooding intensifies across southeast Texas. We're looking at video right now on Fox News from Rosenberg, Texas, as the storm heads east. That's outside of the Houston area. Rain still falling. Houston is not out of trouble yet. And what is going on there, to me, is amazing. We have a response from the federal government because President Trump was in touch with Greg Abbott, and they're all over it. That's good. But more so, we as citizens should not rely on our federal government. President Trump should not have to send 8,500 workers there. I'm glad that he did, because it's all hands on deck, because the damage there, the flooding, it's incredible. It's probably the worst in our history. And we always hear people saying, is the Fed doing enough? It's not about the Fed doing enough. We have people who are using their own boats, their own dinghies, their own kayaks just to rescue people they don't even know. That is the America I know. That is the America that is going to win out over this internal civil war that we have going on about free speech. The left wants to take away your right to free speech. Now, there was a resident in Texas, had his own personal boat, okay? And he was coming by, and a reporter asked him a question. And here was it's a brief exchange. It's only 13 seconds. This is the real America. It's not about black versus white. It's about Americans helping Americans when times are tough and the chips are down. Robert, please clip one.
You guys just jumping in to help out?
Yes, sir.
Yeah?
Yes, sir.
Where are you coming from?
Texas City.
Texas City?
Yes, sir.
What are you going to do?
I'll go try to save some lives.
Yeah?
Yes, sir.
This is horrible, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Going to go try and save some lives. And for those of you who didn't see the clip, that is a black male, not that color should matter, but a black male with his own boat going to go down and try to save some lives, okay? Because to most Americans, color doesn't matter, religion doesn't matter, and when there's a tragedy and a natural disaster like this is what happens. Americans come together. So people should not be amazed that the residents of Texas are trying now and taking it upon themselves to rescue their neighbors, people that they don't even know, people coming from there, Texas City to Houston, to save people he doesn't even know. That's the America I know, not the America that's presented in the media. But this past weekend in Berkeley, California, Berkeley seems to be the riot capital of America. Every time they're in the news, someone's rioting or someone is violating someone's right to free speech. It is no longer the cradle of the free speech movement. That issue is gone. So you heard the Texas resident talk about going to go save some lives, but in Berkeley, this is the sound of the American left.
Get out! Get away, you out! What are you guys beating us up for? He's broken up! Get the out of there!
Now, for those of you who could not hear, but then all the beeps and the whistling, that was Trump supporters being beaten by anti-fascists at the Berkeley protests, okay? What happens when the Antifa come? They come with their black uniforms provided by George Soros and others, and there is intolerance. Intolerance represented in the media, intolerance represented in Democrats on the Hill, and intolerance in the Democrats in the San Francisco area. Intolerance is the moniker of the Democratic Party. Lou Pate here on The Savage Nation.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
It's the Savage Nation. Lou Pate filling in for Dr. Savage. He'll be back tomorrow. But in the meantime, I encourage you that you pick up a copy of the New York Times bestseller, Trump's War, His Battle for America, the book that debuted #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. You know it had to drive them crazy at the New York Times to have to put Dr. Savage up there, #1 at all, but let alone as a debut. They probably had to put Bunting up. They were so miserable about that. But definitely a tome you want to reach out and read. If you didn't get it when it first came out, it is still available, and it is still telling the tale of our time. Dr. Savage was a visionary on this one. In the meantime, if you want to get in on the Savage Nation right now, my name is Lou Pate, 855-400-SAVAGE. The Video Music Awards were, last night, was it? Award shows have really gotten, there's too many of them, first of all. The award show used to begin with the Golden Globes, and then it would end with the Oscars in March. And then we were good, until the Golden Globes came around again. Now there's a million shows in between. It seems like they go on all year and self-congratulatory, patting themselves on the back. Celebrities giving awards out for everything. Last night was the Video Music Awards. And of course, liberals going to be liberals, and they're going to get their pot shots in at Donald Trump because they still cannot accept the fact that he beat crooked Hillary. But they took it one step further. They dragged out a descendant who turns out to be a useful idiot of Robert E. Lee. Not only is he a direct descendant of Robert E. Lee, his name is Robert Lee IV. So first my question is, how come he didn't have to go do the Pittsburgh game? Remember last week, Robert Lee, the Asian broadcaster, taken off the University of Virginia game because of his name. They didn't want his name to be controversial and start trouble. Well, how come when lefties then want to use the name, it's not controversial? It's not something that's going to stir up trouble. When they want to use the name for someone who allows themselves to be used in this, the descendant of Robert E. Lee, the name is now fine. 5 days ago, the name was no good. Now the name is fine. So the descendant, Robert E. Lee IV, was at the Video Music Awards to support Black Lives Matter, to fight racism. I can't even say that without a chuckle in my voice, because Black Lives Matter is a racist organization. I'd go so far as to say they are on the cusp of being, this is just my opinion, a terrorist organization. What do we want? Dead cops. When do we want them? Now. Okay? That's their mantra. And some people will say, that was only one faction and they were marching through New York City. We don't condone that. Well, you might not condone it, but the president of the United States at the time, Barack Obama, didn't condemn it. Did they call him a cop hater? Did they call him a cop killer? I refer to President Barack Obama as the cop killer president. Dallas, Texas, 6 police officers assassinated in the line of duty by a man affiliated with Black Lives Matter. Okay? And the list goes on. After Ferguson, officers Lou and Ramos in Brooklyn, New York. Man drove after Baltimore, not Ferguson, Baltimore. Freddie Gray case, drove up there, assassinated 2 officers. Was there any outrage from the media? The shock, was reported. 2 dead officers were reported, but was there a political narrative? Did President Obama come out and condemn the violence? All we hear about is Black Lives Matter. They've been to the White House for dinner. They've been given a primetime speaking engagement at Hillary Clinton's convention. And nobody wants to acknowledge the shutting down of freeways, the taking away of people's right to free speech, the calling for the execution of police officers, and then when police officers are executed, everybody turns a blind eye. Yeah, you want to defend Black Lives Matter. Robert E. Lee would be turning in his grave to see the useful idiot his, I don't know if it's great, but Robert E. Lee IV has become. But we have a little bit we're going to play for you now. This is last night, the Video Music Awards, Robert E. Lee IV. I'm surprised he could use his name. I thought it was banned last week, but I guess they changed the rules when it comes to liberals. Clip 18, please, Robert.
My name is Robert Lee IV. I'm a descendant of Robert E. Lee, the Civil War general whose statue was at the center of violence in Charlottesville. We have made my ancestor an idol of white supremacy, racism, and hate. As a pastor, it is my moral duty to speak out against racism, America's original sin.
Oh, there we have it. And he's a pastor too, huh? That little nugget that was thrown in there. I'll tell you what. This guy probably didn't even know much about his ancestor. I don't know, but he, just to say these things, to play into the hands of the liberals, I'm surprised he didn't say he was going to change his name. But it gets better at the Video Music Awards. Katy Perry, okay, you know her. I'll just play. We have another clip, okay? She's ridiculing the president for losing the popular vote. Again, ridiculing the president. Well, I'll tell you what I think about this when we come back. Robert, clip number 21, please.
So there were 5 nominees for Best New Artist when this whole night got started. Now it's just up to the top 2. Congratulations, Julia Michaels and Khalid. And who wins is up to you. One artist will join the ranks of other Best New Artist winners like Justin Bieber, Lady Gaga, and my personal favorite, Hootie and the Blowfish. Woo! Listen, guys, this is one election where the popular vote actually matters, so vote online. But hurry up before some random Russian pop star wins, okay?
Why, P. Riot wasn't nominated? Anyway, that's Katy Perry basically screaming out to millions of people watching on MTV that I'm an idiot, and I think I'm being all snarky and cool and sarcastic here. I'm even going to get in a Russian dig, but really what I'm screaming is, now you know why Russell Brand dumped me. Because I'm an idiot. I don't understand the Electoral College. I know they teach it in 5th or 6th grade, and it's a pretty easy concept, but I just don't get it. Oh, I know she'd say, I understand it, but I was just being sarcastic. No, New York and L.A. do not pick the president, Katy Perry. Sorry. So thanks for telling us how dumb you are, and we appreciate the update. Let's get to the phones, 855-400-SAVAGE. Dennis, WKZO in Michigan. Welcome to the Savage Nation. Thank you for calling. How are you?
Good. Great show today. Big shoes to fill, doing a good job. I have a question. If anybody watched the MTV Awards last night, was there a banner for where they could send money to help the people of Houston? It seems like most other disasters, when they happen, there's a banner already as soon as anything goes on the air with these shows or concerts. I don't remember seeing anything or anybody talking about any help being sent to Houston from that.
I have not heard, and I did not see, so I don't want to speak out of school. But Robert is telling me that they did mention it, and you'd have to watch the whole thing. So, yeah, I can't see liberal Hollywood letting that go by. But Dennis, to what you're saying, it doesn't appear that there was really a grand effort. Everybody should have made mention of it who had a microphone in front of them last night.
It's real simple to run something across the TV like they do for everything else. It's just one of those things,
Yeah, Robert, that was going to be my question. Was there a chyron or anything, or was it a mention that way, or was it verbal? Do we know? It was verbal. Thank you, Robert. See, the team here, Team Savage, is on top of everything, Dennis. There's nothing that goes on that they don't know about. So there was no chyron. It was just verbal. But still, they should have had a chyron. They should have had something on the screen. And quite frankly, everybody who came up there, instead of, expressing your sour grapes about the fact that your candidate didn't lose the election, say, hey, how's about helping out the people in Houston? But that's an excellent point. It didn't seem to be number one on their priority list, Dennis. Not at all. But, Dennis, thank you for your call. Do appreciate you calling in from WKZO. Now, another one who really should just kind of keep her head down and, nose to the grindstone and just be happy that she won the lottery of life is Paris Jackson, all right? The quote-unquote daughter of Michael Jackson, whether it's his biological daughter or not, doesn't matter. Legally was his daughter, and he raised her, and so on and so forth. He died back in 2009 at the age of 50. Now, Victoria Paris, because she's the adopted or biological daughter, whatever, of Michael Jackson, has won the life lottery. She's become a model, and she has no business being a model. Let's just face. She's not ugly, but she just has no business being a model. You look at a model and you see a model. This is not a model. This is just a person. So she was there last night, so they're letting her get up there and spew whatever she wants to spew. And she's mocking President Trump and calls out Nazis and white supremacists. But the funny thing is, I guarantee you, I'll bet you she didn't vote. I'll bet you she's not even registered. Robert, please, clip number 20. This is the daughter of Michael Jackson, Paris Jackson.
You know, if we were to all put our voices together, do you realize the difference we would make? If we were to all stand up, united as one, our impact, it would be huge. Believe me, huge. And that's not fake news. So let's leave here tonight remembering that we must show these Nazi, white supremacist jerks in Charlottesville and all over the country that as a nation with liberty as our slogan, we have zero tolerance for their violence, their hatred, and their discrimination. We must resist.
All right. There. Obviously, somebody wrote that for her, and she probably was reading from a teleprompter. I didn't see it live, but I've read the words, but that was the first I heard of the audio. And as I'm listening to it, I go, "Oh, this is pre-written." And nothing against her. I have nothing against her, but she's not that smart. Okay, I've seen interviews with her, and she's not that smart. So the Trump reference with the huge, the fake news. I'm sure she doesn't even know what that was before last night. This clip, this thing that was said, was written for her. I'm like 99.9% convinced that is the situation there. But what we have is self-grandizing celebrities getting together, showing their ignorance, showing their lack of knowledge on how the elections work, and totally close-minded to anything outside of what they want. Again, we get to the resist. What does Paris Jackson know it's resistance summer? I doubt it. Somebody wrote that for her. She read it, and I got to say, she gave it a good read. She did it with enthusiasm. She did it with gusto, but kind of makes herself look foolish. What are you resisting? We must resist. This whole resistance summer thing, which kind of fell through. Remember, we've played a bunch of clips here on the Savage Nation, resistance summer, and so on and so forth. That never really caught on, because the question begs to be asked: what are you resisting? You're resisting democracy? You're resisting a fair election? What are you resisting? Because, again, I hate to be one of these, love it or leave it America, but if this place is so horrible, if this country is so horrible, no one is forcing anybody to say. I'm not saying love it or leave it, but I would not want to stay in a place that was so abysmal, so oppressive, has a repugnant history. I wouldn't want to stay there. So you can go. You can go to Venezuela. You can go to North Korea. As I like to joke, and this is the truth, the North Korean Constitution allows money for arts and sciences. It's like a liberal dream. All of these things that they claim they want, socialist world, you got Cuba, you got Venezuela, a little bit rocky down there in Venezuela right now. You got North Korea. There are so many places that all of these people can go. All of these people who claim to hate America, yet where do they stay? Right here in a place that they loathe, a place that they think hates women, hates minorities, hates everybody, yet this is where they live. Come on. They kind of make a fool of themselves every time they open their mouths, which is why I love it when they open their mouths. Well, we got the home stretch here of the Savage Nation. Only a few more moments, so if you want to get your voice heard, 855-400-SAVAGE. Lou Pate here with you on the Savage Nation.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com. Money.
Welcome back to the Savage Nation. Lou Pate in for Dr. Savage. He will return tomorrow. And folks, I cannot emphasize it enough. Trump's war, his battle for America, a must read. It is becoming more and more a must read as times move forward and we are experiencing what we see in Charlottesville. What was going on in Berkeley over the weekend and San Francisco, the denial of people's right to free speech. Trump supporters being beaten by the Antifa. Everything's getting out of control. But there is a bright spot here in the United States, and it's what we see going on in Houston. The selflessness of Texas residents and people from all over America helping out the people of Houston and the surrounding areas. Houston's getting all the play, but there's a lot of small towns in there that are affected as well, and the flooding is going on. The federal government is doing its share, which is good, but more, this was about first responders, people on the ground, locals handling it. And I'm very proud of what we see going on. Still raining there, and the flood waters are increasing. So we will keep you posted here at the Savage Nation. This story is going to be going on for months, if not years. But out of the gate, Americans coming together, and I'm proud of what I see. Don't let the media paint this country as something negative. But what just came in now is North Korea. They had 3 failed missile launches in the last week. North Korea now has fired a missile towards Japan, the New York Post is reporting. The Japanese government has warned residents that the projectile is heading towards the northern part of the country, this according to CNBC through the New York Post. It's unclear what type of missile it is, and local broadcasters have been instructing people to take cover and evacuate to a sturdy building or basement. This, according to social media users. Now, the North Korean news agency Yonhap first reported that Pyongyang had fired the missile from the Hermit Kingdom's eastern coast. You heard it right here on the Savage Nation. He's just trying to save face after 3 missiles failed. Hey, that's it for me, Lou Pate. Special thanks to Robert. Special thanks to Jim. Guys, I don't do it alone. I appreciate all of your help, and folks know that they work hard behind the scenes. Lou Pate here with you. Dr. Savage will be back tomorrow right here on The Savage Nation.
Savage.